Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of United Talks Podcast. And today we're doing the match review of the game between Manchester United and AC Milan. And it was quite an interesting game because the truth is, we could talk more and more about everything. We could talk about how Amorim, lined up against Michael Carrick and all of that. And the truth is, I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to go and watch the game and then come back and or tell you anything I wanted to tell you. One of the first things I did was I missed the game first, for context. I missed the game, and then I went back to watch the game. And when I went back to watch the game, I was able to get clarity on what I got from the game, what I understood from the game, what I studied from the game. And it was different because I already knew the scoreline. I already knew Man United lost 4-2 to AC Milan in the final preseason game of the preseason. And eventually I kind of went back and I watched it with a bit of clarity. I watched it with the mindset of, okay, now I'm looking for those tactical gaps. I'm looking for those tactical clarity that would give me a sense of an idea of what Michael Carrick was all about, or maybe what Amorim was trying to show Michael Carrick and all of that. And I said something in one of the videos when I said that Rúben Amorim knows 90% of all of the players at Manchester United. We start from all of the players that he didn't sign. We're saying Yuri Tillemans, Andre Santos, and the likes. But Yuri Tillemans, Andre Santos, Tannen Thompson, these are players that Man United just signed this season. So Amorim doesn't know them. But the ones that he knows, he will be able to manipulate however he wanted to. And that is what Michael Carrick should have known. And just thinking about this from the context, I'm trying to understand certain things okay, when Man United was lining up against PSG, Michael Carrick was asked about the game on Man U TV. He was asked about the game, and he just said he didn't think too much about the game. That's what Michael Carrick said. He didn't think too much about the game. He didn't think too much about PSG. He just wanted a situation where he wanted to understand where his players were. But when we came to this 2-4 defeat, I tried to understand whether he actually thought deep about what he expected from the team and all of that. Now, Manchester United, Amorim beats former club as Ramos and Chukwueze shine. This is kind of from the match report. Gonçalo Ramos and Samuel Chukwueze were both scored and supplied 2 assists as Rúben Amorim's AC Milan earned an eye-catching 4-2 victory, friendly win over Manchester United. Mind you, Rúben Amorim hadn't won a game leading to this, and this was their 4th preseason game. They had drawn the first 2, lost the 3rd one to Chelsea, and then gave Manchester United a thrashing, a lesson, First, let's start with the first goal, right? No, before the first goal, let's go to the starting lineup for this game. I predicted a different starting lineup, but it wasn't too far, right? I started with Tyler Fletcher and Michael Carrick went with Yuri Tillemans. So with the starting lineup, you have Harry Maguire, Aiden Heaven, Luke Shaw, and Mazraoui as the back 4 with Solomons in net, right? In the second half, it will surprise you to know that our back 4 in 2022 is our back 4 in 2026, 4 years later. Luke Shaw, Lisandro Martinez, Harry Maguire, and Diogo Dalot. That is our back 4. That was our back 4 that finished that game or that ended that game in the second half. And that is the back 4 that considered the 2 goals that was left, because when they came on, it was already 2-2. Now, in the midfield, it was Yuri Tillemans and Andre Santos. You look at those 2 names and you're like, okay, one has experience, is going to drop deep, and then the other one is quite young and he's going to be able to run around and cover the spaces and all of that. And then in the attack or in the front 4, I went with a different front 4 the last time. I went with Patrick Dorgu, I went with Ahmad, Xerxes, and Mbomo. But this time around, Michael Carrick went with Ahmad, Fernandes, Dorgu, and Cunha. Cunha was kind of like the false 9. Rúben Amorim also lined up with his typical 3-4-3 system, or 3-4-2-1, with Gonçalo Ramos in the striking position. The baller in this team was Samuel Chukwueze, because from the right wing back spot, he got 2 assists and a goal, basically. Gonçalo Ramos as well got 2 assists and a goal. And then Cissè scored their goal, which made it 3. And then Ruben Loftus-Cheek scored the 4th goal. Now, that is a lesson for Michael Carrick, a lesson for Manchester United fans, a lesson for what we expected this team to do, but the team didn't do. And that is the problem. So it is what it is. Like, let's run through. Okay, now we've done the lineup. We saw what the lineup was all about, and we saw what we expected and everything. Now let's look at the game and how it went. Now, Alphadjo Cissè and Ruben Loftus-Cheek were also on target for Milan, who's a standing goalkeeper. Lorenzo Torriani saved the penalty from Bruno Fernandes at 1-1. Right? Now, United had led 1-0 and 2-1, and later handed Marcus Rashford his first start since 2024, but they looked some way short of the required standard a week out from their Premier League opener as Amorim earned bragging rights over his old club. And I said this, that there were certain narratives that were going to pop out as a result of this game. And it wasn't like there was no lies in this, because the narrative started to pop out. A lot of people started saying a lot of things. People started talking about the fact that, Michael Carrick, in fact, before the game, Kobe Mainoo was going to get his revenge. Michael Carrick was going to teach Amorim a lesson. Amorim was a bad manager and all of that. And I think maybe Amorim took it too seriously, because it's only preseason, and in preseason we're supposed to be learning a lot about our team. We're supposed to be learning a lot about what we expect from the team, especially when it comes to the fact that we are 1 week away from preseason. But we learn a lot about the team's weakness. We learn a lot about the team's preparedness. I said in the match preview, I said that the team, most of the players in the team are on the next level, or on a higher level with regards to preparedness for the season. And in truth, that was what it was before the game. And then when we got to that game, Rúben Amorim just handed us a lesson. We led 1-0, 2 minutes, goal scored by Harry Maguire, a header. And the way he celebrated, I'm like, you're celebrating a goal in preseason. I'm like, okay, it's preseason. You don't need to celebrate. Just get on with it. Like, yeah, you're not there yet. We're still building a team. We're still trying to get somewhere. And he celebrated. I was like, okay, cool. And then in the 37th minute, Samuel Chukwueze scored the first goal with an assist from Gonçalo Ramos. And how that goal came, the build-up was crazy, because AC Milan showed us what it meant to keep control of the game. They didn't let Man United get a touch of that ball, especially with Jashari in that midfield. Like, it felt like they were schooling us in the art of possession, because we started to sit back. We tried to sit back and defend and sit back and counter and all of those things. And it was frustrating to watch. I was like, okay, show me something. Because I kept saying, even in preseason, everybody that knows, that watch our videos, I kept saying, even in preseason, like in the previous games, like, I need more. I need to see more. Show me something. These guys were not. I was like, okay, so what's the next level? How can we get there? How can we, put things in perspective? Like, you have your full squad, you have your 2 signings in Youri Tielemans and Andre Santos. We want to see them play together. You have that midfield trio of Youri Tielemans, Andre Santos, and Bruno Fernandes. So I expect more. I expect like some sense of control. I expect some sense of class in dealing with an AC Milan team that barely played together for the longest time. Rúben Amorim is building his squad from scratch, literally signing players to fit into his system, and you know how he is. Like, he started the team in preseason in June, came in June when basically everybody was at the World Cup, and then he had the opportunity to do his team planning, and eventually got the players he needed to get out and get the players he needed to get in. I expected that, okay, based on that, we are seeing something very unique, very different, very interesting when it comes to how Manchester United was going to line up. But nah, it wasn't as I expected. it wasn't to be. And basically, they just ran the show. Especially how they showed us how, and I kept saying this. You all will know that I keep talking about asking for more from what's his name? From Patrick Dorgu. Because I kept saying, okay, Patrick Dorgu is good. He needs to be lethal front of the net. Yes, he scored a goal and everything, but he needs to be lethal in front of the net, and he also needs to be defensively astute. He started out as a left back and played as a left wing back under Rúben Amorim. He needs to be defensively astute. He needs to be very available when it comes to being defensive, box to box and all of that. He was nowhere to be seen when Rúben Amorim was switching the balls from left to right when it comes to, not Rúben Amorim, like the AC Milan players basically, switching the ball from left to right when it comes to playing it out wide. And that's why they showed us that our left flank, where Patrick Dorgu is playing as a right winger, as a left winger basically, is actually porous and empty, because you had one player taking on two players. Patrick Dorgu was nowhere to be seen, and Luke Shaw was left alone with him, because Luke Shaw was trying to cover deep within with Ruben Loftus-Cheek on his side, as well as Chukwueze. So where was the midfield? Where was Andre Santos or Yuri Tillemans to help with Luke Shaw and Patrick Dorgu? That's the problem. And we had that same situation when Rashford came on as well. Rashford also was pressing high, but not dropping as deep. And Chukwueze was still running the show from defense to attack. And if you're Nigerian, you know Chukwueze. Samuel Chukwueze is a winger, basically. He used to be very annoying sometimes, especially in the AFCON, where he was trying to do everything by himself. He had a good spell at Fulham last season, where he played against Manchester United and actually scored goals, and played against Manchester City and actually scored in a 4-3 defeat, and created assists as well, playing on the left wing as well as the right wing. And him coming to this AC Milan side, he was on loan at Fulham, by the way. Coming back to AC Milan side, the rejected Stone became the chief cornerstone, and Rúben Amorim is using him as his right wing forward, just as he did with Ahmad. It's just a mirror image of what he did at Man United. The difference is, in Man United, he came during the season. At AC Milan, he is coming before pre-season. So he can have the chance to build a squad and choose the players and ask the players that he needs to ask out, and then get the players that, even if he doesn't have to sell them, maybe send them on loan and stuff, Amorim wouldn't have to start dealing with Andre Onana. Literally. But he did. That's pretty much what happened here. Now, Michael Carrick, basically, it's not his fault that he doesn't have the right amount of players that he needs, especially in that midfield. But he tried to change things up as well. Doing the regular 4-2-4 press, it wasn't working. 4-3-3 wasn't working. 4-4-2 probably didn't work. Playing Cunha as a false nine maybe didn't work. And I wish he played Cunha on the left side in place of Patrick Dorgu and probably brought Xerxes, he probably would get a different technical aspect of the game, because Cunha would drop back and push forward. Ahmad was also dropping back to help Nuzaya Majraoui. So these are things that we're seeing in the game that actually showed us that, okay, the one side of the team is doing well, the other side is actually just, the midfield was actually just all about tackling and putting in tackles and fouling and stuff. It wasn't just like, they didn't have any level of control. I'm not saying that they were absolutely rubbish, no, but compared to what AC Milan showed us, they didn't have any level of control in the game. Now, obviously, like I said, we led 1-0 and then eventually 2-1. And then Marcus Rashford came on, and we still looked short. We still looked like we didn't have any potency. Only 2 minutes were on the clock when Harry Maguire headed United in front, meeting a deep corner delivery from Bruno Fernandes with Torriani, who was deputizing for Mike Maignan, rooted to his line. Now, speaking of rooted to his line, okay, I'll talk about the Man United goals that we considered, and then we can wrap things up. But the Rossoneri got level via a well-worked goal in the 37th minute with Chukwueze tapping into the empty net after former Paris Saint-Germain striker Ramos unselfishly put the ball on a plate for him, right? United had a great chance to restore the advantage before halftime with a terrible Milan giveaway, resulting in Yuri Tillemans stealing possession and being fouled in by Coney the Winter. But Torriani guessed correctly to save Fernandes' spot kick down to his right. Now, United did go 2-1 up 6 minutes into the second half with another Milan mistake gifting them a goal as Filippo Terracciano played the ball straight to Dorgu, who sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. Not really, because Dorgu actually hit the ball in such a way that the keeper actually even touched it and he still went in. But he almost missed it. That's why I keep saying Patrick Dorgu needs to be lethal. I'm not saying that I'm putting the blame on him because he's a left back turned left winger. But he needs to be very lethal. He needs to take full advantage of any opportunity that comes with him. And he scored a goal. But it's not about doing things in attack. It's also about doing some things in defense as well, right? Milan's wide players continued to threaten, and Cissè was in the right place at the right time to tap in Chukwueze's cross over the line at the far post. And then my United players are looking for the offside trap when it was 2-1, and it wasn't to be. We were the ones leading. We were 2-1 up, but it felt like we didn't even have the ascendancy. AC Milan had the ascendancy, controlled the tempo of the game, controlled the proceedings, controlled everything, like passed the ball from side to side, swung us from left to right, tried to pass through the middle. And when they were passing through the middle, you could see that they were gelling. These were guys who wanted to understand and play the system. And that is the problem. Like, that's the problem we have right now as at Man United. Now, they continued and they used their wing backs so well. I talked about this in the 4 strategies to win AC Milan, where I said, when the wing backs push high, we need to take advantage. For you to even be able to take advantage, you need to actually even have the ball. We didn't have the ball. That's even the problem. We didn't even have the ball, let alone take advantage of the wing spots. The 2 goals we scored, one from a set piece, the other one from a mistake. The rest, they played us off the park. They played us off the park. We didn't even need to make a mistake. They passed the ball and passed the ball and passed the ball and passed the ball, and my jaw just dropped. I'm like, what am I watching? It's like, this is Champions League final level kind of play, maybe because of the caliber of the team in Manchester United. And it showed that we had very visible gaps in this team, right? Now, so it was 2-2 at the time. And then Rashford made his debut, his return, as one of 6 substitutions made by Michael Carrick on the hour mark in the 60th minute. But the momentum remained with Milan as the impressive Chukwueze curled another pinpoint delivery into the 6-yard box, allowing Ramos to apply a finishing touch with his head in the 68th minute. Now, if you look at that pinpoint cross from Samuel Chukwueze, he crossed the ball in such a way that when Diogo Dalot, who was behind Ramos, saw that Ramos had lifted in the air, his face, if you look at his facial expression, go back and check it. You see, if you look at his facial expression, it's like, oh my God, this guy's already scored. Because he knows Ramos from the national team. He gets in the air, he scores the goal. He's very little, but just didn't have that little finishing or those so many opportunities in Paris Saint-Germain. And he was that kind of player that when he got the opportunity, he scored. He was also that kind of player that when he got so many opportunities, he also missed, but he scored. So I'm like, okay, you could see Dalot. Dalot was like, this was a goal, and he ran straight to the center and all of that. So they scored in the 68th minute. That was 8 minutes after making the subs, with Lisandro Martinez coming in for Aiden Heaven, with Marcus Rashford coming in for it was Patrick Dorgu. Then you also had Andre Santos being subbed off for Kobe Mainu, Mr. Controller, Controller General, as everybody will call him, and all of that. At the back line, all was at sea when Ruben Loftus-Cheek added a 4th for the Italian Giants 3 minutes later, racing off the back of Lisandro Martinez to meet Ramos's through ball before slotting in at the near post. Ramos, there was that intricate play that they played 1-2-1-2, and United couldn't even get a touch of the ball. Now, before I get to Kobe Mainu, that pass 1-2-1-2, boom, Ramos got the ball, swung it behind the line. That behind the line pass I was talking about that we should be doing against AC Milan. AC Milan did it against us. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek basically got the opportunity, and boom, he got the goal, and it was done. Speaking of Kobe Mainu, came on. Yes, I could understand it being a bit rusty. Haven't played any football any competitive football all through the summer. They didn't even get a single minute in the World Cup, despite the fact that all that the media was all about when it comes to Kobbie Mainoo last season because of Amorim was that he wasn't going to make the World Cup squad. He made the World Cup squad, but they didn't make us get a single minute. But nobody's talking about that. Everybody's talking about, oh, Kobbie Mainoo could have been doing this, Kobbie Mainoo could have been doing that, this, and that. It's quite disappointing and quite disheartening to see. But what can we say? He lost the ball 4 or 5 times. I think 5 times. I was counting because I was watching him. I was like, I'm trying to see if Kobbie Mainoo brings another dynamic to the midfield. He just made the midfield very weak and unathletic. He tried to do some dribbling and all of that. Didn't complete any dribbles. If you look at his stats, no dribbles completed. I'm like, okay, those ball under pressure, like being able to wriggle out of pressure, being able to wriggle out of tight spaces, wasn't to be. Kobbie Mainoo didn't do that. Couldn't do it because obviously he was isolated. Same thing with Bruno Fernandes. It looks like Rúben Amorim figured that if you stifle Bruno Fernandes, Man United's creativity becomes stifled. That is why I said Joshua Zirkzee should have started this game. He most likely would understand how to mark out Joshua Zirkzee, but Joshua Zirkzee could have started this game, and that would have given him a whole new dynamic, because a different dynamic to Matheus Cunha. Because if Matheus Cunha is playing on the left, Joshua Zirkzee is playing as a striker, and then Bruno is playing as a 10, they can both switch sides. And if you have that, you have the dynamism, you have the opportunity of one who can hold up play and basically pass the ball to the flying guys in Ahmad and co. Ahmad was stifled to an extent, surprisingly, by Estupinian. That's the problem. It was disappointing to watch, basically, that game. Yeah, and then we started playing some long balls. I was seeing where we're trying to poke the ball from deep into the space behind the back line, and AC Milan were able to still recover. If you see how they recovered in hordes and all of that. Yeah, so Loftus-Cheek added that fourth. And then basically Lisandro Martinez just showed why we don't need Lisandro Martinez in this team. Basically, yes, if you don't have control of the ball, you don't need a Lisandro Martinez. If you cannot do anything very potent with that ball, you don't need a Lisandro Martinez. Because if you feel like you need a Lisandro Martinez, and that's basically an unpopular opinion, but if you think like you need a Lisandro Martinez, then you're setting yourself up to fail, because Lisandro Martinez and Harry Maguire together are not as fast. The fastest player in that back line is Dalot, followed by Luke Shaw, and then you have 2 slow players in Lisandro Martinez. That's why you need an aid in heaven. He was a bit aggressive in this game. He was a bit aggressive, was holding up play, was playing those in-between passes, even though we didn't need that because AC Milan were already, controlling things. And I even saw that after the water break in the second half, or the addition break in the second half, Michael Carrick tried to switch plays up to make us more compact. But making us compact left AC Milan to have more control on the flanks. And that's the thing. That's the thing. You cannot have control of the game when you're being attacked on. So you have to switch strategies. And even when you switched up the strategy, it still wasn't working. The pressing wasn't working. Nothing was working. Now Maguire's drive drew a good reflex save from Torriani as well, because that was a good chance when we were pressing forward and trying to gain control of the game. But United looked a beating team from there, and only the feat of Gonçalo Ramos prevented. I think Gonçalo Ramos saved 2 goals with his feet. Prevented Francesco Kamada from adding a 5th Milan goal. I think it would have been 6-2, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 6-3. Bruno Fernandes scored his penalty. A measure of revenge for Rúben Amorim. I won't call that a measure of revenge, but just a lesson, basically. A tactical lesson from Rúben Amorim. When Rúben Amorim left United in January, they were 6th in the Premier League and had only won 8 of their 20 games in the competition that season. Drew 7 and lost 5. After Carrick took the reins on interim basis, they won 12 of the final 17 matches to finish 3rd, drew 3 and lost 2. Cool. Earning more points in that time than any other side in the competition, which was 39 points. Cool. The Red Devils are hoping that Carrick can continue those achievements over a full 38 game campaign in 26-27 season. But at the Tarczyński Arena on Saturday, Amorim was the coach with all the answers. Yeah. Now, Milan cut through United's defense with accumulating 3.21. 3.21 expected goals from 13 shots compared to Red Devils' 1.78 expected goals from 10 attempts. And, of course, a huge portion of that latter figure came from Bruno Fernandes his unsuccessful penalty. Ramos really looked the part following his big money move from PSG, having 4 touches in the United area, only bettered by Chukwueze 6, and creating 3 chances, a joint figure alongside Samuel Chukwueze. They ran the show. Samuel Chukwueze ran the show. Milan begin their Serie A campaign against Torino on August 23rd, while United still have work to do ahead of visiting newly promoted Hull City next Saturday in the Premier League on the 22nd of August. That is going to be an interesting game. And I'm going to do a match preview for that. Do a match preview. We're going to be here. We're going to do the match review and all of those things. And I'm grateful that it's basically happening on Saturday and all of that because, I might not have some time on Sunday, but I'll try to do everything on Saturday. So that was it. Like, it was quite interesting to see that Michael Carrick, did not have any answers to Rúben Amorim. And I could go on and on talking about the whole tactical thing and blah, blah, blah. But we're going to talk about the 3 things that we learned from the game. Maybe we're going to make it 5 by adding like 2 more, basically tactical lessons and stuff. But yeah, that is all about like how Rúben Amorim kind of schooled Michael Carrick to a 4-2 win. And like I said, it's only preseason. And as it's only preseason, it's only fair to say that we have a lot of work to do. We need some players. And